Hello, everyone. This is Pal Ponder on Weather coming at you with another video. In this update, we're going to be talking about the April forecast. So, before I do get started, if you do like weather related content, please subscribe to my channel and definitely share with your friends on social media. All right, so let's get started. So, let's first start off with the overall precipitation anomalies and where we've been from essentially from January 1st to March 22nd year to date, and this brown shaded area kind of really stands out. That's where we've been below average for much of California and Nevada and Utah and the deep south into Texas as well as Florida and definitely parts of the Northeast and a part of you know the Dakotas into Minnesota. But what really stands out is the green shaded area, and that's where we're basically 100% or above average for these areas into Texas, much of the Southeast, into the Ohio Valley, into Michigan, Wisconsin, and Michigan. So this areas have seen a lot of rainfall in some places, or even 200% above average. So if we take a look at the actual amounts, it's pretty crazy because a lot of these areas are not only have they have a lot of rain, but they've had record rain. I know Dallas Fort Worth had 15 plus inches. That's the all time most record rainfall year to date. And even a lot of places in the southeast have seen record rainfall year to date. So a good chunk, about two-thirds of the country, much of the southeast has seen a lot of rainfall for the Ohio Valley, and parts of the Northwest has seen a good amount, but that's not nearly as much as the Southeast. So now let's kind of take you through April and kind of where we're going to head to. So here's the temperature anomaly map from essentially the first 10 days of April, and you can see a good chunk of well above normal temperatures for the central U.S. into the Ohio Valley, for parts of the Northeast, and even down in the Texas is going to be above average as well. But in the blue shaded area out west, where they've seen below average temperatures, and that actually continues into the first part of April into California, Washington, as well as Oregon, Nevada, and Arizona. Now, if we take you through the actual precipitation anomalies, you can see where we kind of dry out a little bit for the first 10 days in the Ohio Valley and parts of Michigan and parts of the Northeast. We do a well above average precipitation for parts of Florida that we're seeing. And, we get into a time frame where we're already going to be the typically some of your wettest months. So even places like into Texas and the Southeast, where it shows basically normal rainfall for the first 10 days, you already historically get a lot of rainfall just on an average basis. So it doesn't mean you're not going to get those rains that you're typically going to see, but it's just your averages are a lot greater than what they usually are for January, February, into March. But yeah, parts of the Northwest is typically going to be about average for the first 10 days of April. So now let's take you through kind of the middle part of the month from the 11th through the 21st, and we can see a little bit of a cool down coming into the Northwest and much of the U.S. as these colder temperatures kind of arrive for the middle of the month, and parts of the Northwest getting into California, getting into Arizona, New Mexico, and a lot of the Northwest regions into Montana, into the Dakotas, which will be below normal, pretty much average temperatures for Texas into Oklahoma and Arkansas, Missouri, and then a little bit of a piece of above average temperatures for mid month for the Southeast, as we look to kind of modify some of the warmer temperatures that we have seen of late. Now, if you take a look at the actual precipitation anomalies for that time frame for the middle of the month, we do see above average precipitation for a good chunk of the Southeast coming back, as well as into California, into Nevada, as well as Arizona. So some rains coming back for the middle of the month for these regions, as well as the Ohio Valley. Now, if we take you through the end of the month, basically the 21st through May 1st, we can see pretty much average temperatures coming back for the south and the southeast, and above average temperatures for the middle of the country. And we could have a swath for the Dakotas and Minnesota starting to modify some of those cooler temperatures into a little bit a warmer spell. Now, if we take a look at the actual precipitation for that time frame for the end of the month, we're looking at a good chunk where I do think we're going to be above average, basically for the south and southeast, coming up overall for April for parts of Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi and Alabama and Georgia, and parts of the Carolinas, and that as well as California and Nevada and in the middle of the country too for Colorado, where I think you're going to get above average precipitation as well. Now, if we take a look at the actual overall for the entire month of April, this is the latest from the Climate Prediction Center, and pretty much over those 3 time spans that we looked at, the south and southeast, you can see where these darker shaded reddited areas for South Texas as well as Florida. And you've noticed those are the parts that are going through a little bit of a drought right now. And that's why dry air heats up quicker. And so that's why the thinking is going to be more above average than these other areas that have seen some of these rains as of late. And so not nearly as warm for parts of Houston and into Louisiana and much of the deep south here, but get it still above average for a good chunk of Texas, into Tennessee, into Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia, and then a good chunk of above average for the Northeast as well. So into the Ohio Valley, and you can see in the Northwest that overall in the white shaded areas, pretty much average temperatures, but very little area of below average temperatures in Montana. So overall, above average outlook for the month of April is on the way as far as temperatures go. And even the precipitation again, where, the April showers bring May flowers, they say, and some of these areas that have you seen a lot of rainfall, unfortunately, you're going to be getting a lot more of it into Louisiana and Mississippi and Alabama. Definitely parts of Georgia seems like the bullseye for this month, and as well as South Carolina, and a piece in Iowa stands out too, that we're going to be above average. But some of these areas that have seen, like I said, a lot of rainfall is just going to get a lot more. And then the white shaded areas that it doesn't stand out enough to put above or below average. So that's why we keep it pretty much neutral. But we do have a pattern where from the northwest flow typically seems to die down just a tad, where you'll be getting a lot of precipitation as of late, or going to be modifying now into Washington and Oregon, where you're going to see a below average precipitation. But if we take you back to my spring outlook, and this is what's pretty much I had a huge chunk of severe weather for the South and Southeast, and a good chunk of Florida into the Ohio Valley. And a lot of people say, well, gosh, you had a lot of rainfall in this map. Well, we did have a lot of rain, and we continue going to have a lot of rain. So I know it's somewhat abnormal to put a lot of rain on a map to cover a huge chunk of the United States, but that's just what the outlook looked like, and that's what's actually transpired for the last month, and then I think it's going to transpire, especially in this area, and where it's been hot, and it's going to be 100 degrees down in South Texas. I think that continues, and where the drought's pretty much prevalent, I think these warmer temperatures are going to, continue for the deep south. So, but if we take a look at the overall severe weather aspect, I know a lot of people are interested in this, and so we start to get to a time frame we're going to be more prevalent for severe weather. And you saw my a pretty good chunk of real estate for severe weather, and then this is climatologically speaking, as of April 1st. We kind of see a bullseye starting to take over into parts of Oklahoma, where you typically get a greater chance of severe weather, but that actually spreads out into a good chunk of Oklahoma, into North Texas, into Arkansas, into Louisiana, and much of the Southeast. And then it spreads into the Ohio Valley. But if we get into the middle of the month, you can see it even has a greater chance where we start increasing the probabilities of severe weather. So it's going to be a major player coming up, in which I think, based on my spring outlook, was going to be a prime time, even more of a chance this year than of recent years. And climatologically speaking, these areas kind of expand as we go deeper into April, and then they start to really enhance as we get towards the end of the month, where we have even a greater chance of severe weather into Oklahoma, into parts of start expanding into the Ohio Valley, getting into Illinois and Indiana and Ohio, and increasing the probabilities of it happen as we get deeper into the month. So if we take a look at the overall ocean temperatures, and this has a lot to do with it too, these ocean temperatures have been well above normal, if not 80 degrees. It's just like bath water out there. So it's got plenty of fuel to fuel these storms. And as you can see with the temperature anomalies, all it takes, especially as we get towards the middle of the month, as you saw some of these cooler temperatures coming in from the Northwest, where you get these clash in temperatures. And that's where I think we're going to get more of an elevated time frame for severe weather by the middle of April. So definitely be looking out for that. I want to give you an idea of my overall April forecast. So I appreciate you guys watching, and definitely be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and share with your friends on social media that do love weather related content. And catch me in the next video, where I protect you before and after the storm.